The Death of Stalin, well, the clue is in the title. It started as a graphic novel, French graphic novel, and it portrays the last days of Stalin, who, at the height of the Great Terror, where all of Russia and indeed the Soviet Union were under the grip of this fear that if you appeared on a list of names that Beria, the head of the security forces, put you on, you were taken away and never seen again or sent to the gulags and so on. And this system has been going on for 15, 20 years. And then what happens when Stalin finally falls ill and dies? Does the reign of terror continue? Who's going to take over? Are we going to carry on with terror, or are we, and underneath all that, it's hilarious. Well, the tone was very important because I knew it had to be both funny but also tragic. It's this is based on true incidents, and a lot of the incidents, especially the most absurd ones in the films, are based on events that really did happen. So I had to be careful, I think in the edit actually, of balancing the comedy with the reality. And I made the decision that all the comedy was going to happen inside, in the Kremlin, the senior figures in charge. But we were never going to trivialize or make fun of what happened outside to the people. We were going to be quite honest and graphic even. This reality is ever present and can't be forgotten. Well, the graphic novel came to me. I mean, it was the storyline in the graphic novel that appealed to me instantly. It opens with this concert. Stalin is listening to it live on the radio, asks Radio Moscow to send him a recording. They realize they haven't recorded it. They panic. They shut all the doors and they tell all the concert goers and the orchestra they're going to do it one more time. And the pianist refuses, and they have to beg her to do it again. And that's based on a true story. I mean, we've cheated the timeline. It happened about 10 years before Stalin died. But the graphic novel opens with that. And it's such a great summing up. It's a great overture to that intense. I think the comedy arises from how people behave when they're frightened. They lose their dignity and they act like children or animals. And this was a great kind of summing up, and it was a great way into then showing what the whole of the Soviet Union was like at the time. I got a very kind of wide-ranging cast. The thing about the cast is that they contain comic performers, but who come from many different traditions of comedy. I wanted to stress that these people, although they worked together, they were from a wide variety of backgrounds and locations. We're not talking about Russia, we're talking about an empire, the Soviet Union. Stalin was actually from Georgia, Beria was from Georgia, Khrushchev was from Ukraine. So I wanted lots of different accents. It was all in English, and I didn't want to put on false Russian accents, because then you ask, well, which Russian accent? Because, as I say, Stalin is Georgian, not Russian. But if we have them speaking in their own variety of dialects, so we've got American, West Coast, East Coast, we've got Northern English, we've got Scottish, we've got Irish, we've got London, we've got French, we've got, I like this side. And I think it also, for the viewer, the audience, it makes them feel like this is happening in front of them. They're not watching a historical document that's been translated. They're sort of present. I kind of wanted to feel like it was a European film. I mean, I'm a Scottish Italian working in England. We had an American cast, British cast, European cast, French financing from Gaumont. We did a lot of post-production in Belgium. We researched in Moscow. We shot a little in Moscow, a little in Kiev, and mostly in the UK. And it was a very European production. And therefore, I think that determined how we wrote it and how we performed it and shot it. It's a lot of the humor is really based on that Russian tradition of the little person caught up in the machinery of government. It goes right back to Gogol and Dostoevsky, and so it's not. And I wanted a lot of the visual comedy to feel very not pantomime, but an element of farce about it. So I think subconsciously we were working away at something that had a very European-wide appeal. Well, also, you know, the reason I made it was at the time I was thinking of doing something fictional about an autocrat because, you know, there was Berlusconi, Putin, Erdogan in Turkey. We've now got Trump in the US. But we were making the film before then. So I felt there was something happening, something strange. Democracy was going through a bit of an uncertain period. So that's why I wanted to look at the idea of a dictator. And I was thinking fictionally, and then this story was given to me, and I just thought, well, the truth is so much better and actually more absurd and horrific than any fiction could be. But yes, I think it also chimes in with the feeling people have at the moment about what's happening to our politics and to our governments and to, you know, the fragility of democracy, I think.